everyone, welcome back to Crochet Crochets. For this tutorial we have a really cute bralette to make, and the first one that I made, I used this really pretty color. I think this is my new favorite color. It's Yarn Bee Secret Soft in the color Tobacco, and it's such a pretty brown. It's like a bronzy, and it has sheen to it, so I really like this yarn. But for the one I'm going to show today, I'm going to use the same yarn in the color Mushroom, and these yarns are a medium weight 4. They're kind of like on the thinner side, and they're very soft, so I wouldn't recommend like a thick 4, like not a Lily Sugar and Cream or anything like that, but something that's soft and not super duper thick for a weight 4. And then the reason why is because I'm using an F hook, so sometimes if you use like a Lily Sugar and Cream, the F hook is too small. It's just too thick for it. So I'm going to use an F hook, a 3.75 millimeter hook, and we're going to go through sizes small through 1X and cup sizes A through D. So let's jump. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is start off with a slip knot, and we're going to make our foundation chain. So for size extra small, you're going to chain out 92 chains. For size small, you'll do 102 chains. A medium can do 112. A large can do 128, and an extra large can do 144 chains. All right, so once you finish your foundation chain for your size, we're going to skip this first chain and put a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. And I do recommend for this project, if you're comfortable, to do your row 1 in these back bumps here. So if you're going to do that, skip this very first bump and crochet into the second bump. If you're not comfortable crocheting in the back bumps, don't worry about it. You can just crochet in the V's like normal. It's just a neater and cleaner finish for this top. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be putting 1 single crochet in every stitch across until the end. All right, so this is what it looks like, just 1 single crochet in every stitch across. And the reason why I did the back bumps is because the bottom will look just like the top of it with the V's, and I'm actually going to use the bottom side, the foundation side, to be the top of the band, because the foundation is a little bit tighter than all the other stitches, so I wanted this at the top. Now if you don't want to do the back V's, again, don't worry about it, just do it regular and you'll just use the top as the actual top. Okay, so right now you should have either 91, 101, 111, 127, or 143 stitches. So just make sure that you have an odd number here, and that you didn't accidentally do an even number. And let's continue. So now we're going to start with the moss stitch, which works up really quickly because we're skipping every other stitch. So what we want to do is chain 1 and turn, and then we are going to put 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then chain 1, skip the next stitch and put 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and we're just repeating that all the way down. So chain 1, skip 1, and single crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1, skip 1, and single crochet into the next stitch. And we're going to repeat that all the way across. Okay, so when you get to the end of the row, you should have a single crochet and then 2 stitches left. So you're going to chain 1 and then single crochet into that very last stitch of the row. And that's row 2. That's actually the first row of the repeat. We're going to be repeating rows 2 and 3. So let's go ahead to row 3. So chain 1 and turn. And what you want to do now is you want to put 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then there's a chain 1 space before the next single crochet, so we're going to put a single crochet in that chain 1 space there. And then, so now we're staggered, so you can see it's a single crochet here and not here. So now what we're going to do is chain 1 and skip that single crochet, and then we're going to single crochet into the next chain 1 space, and then chain 1, skip the single crochet, and single crochet into the chain 1 space. And it does take getting used to being able to see it, but you can tell because the I call them little feet, or yeah, I guess like feet of the single crochet. That's what I call the 2 things at the bottom. So you can see the 2 little feet there that make that V shape. And so you're always going to be going in between those. Or if you look at the top, you can kind of tell that the stitch is a little bit tighter, like where the chain 1 is, than where the single crochet is. So that's how you kind of don't get confused. That's kind of how I don't get confused on where to go. But yeah, all we're doing is chaining 1, skipping the single crochet, and single crocheting in that next chain 1 space. So we're going to repeat that all the way across, and I'll meet you there. All right, so when you get to the end of the row, you'll have that chain 1 space that you single crocheted into, and then you'll have that one last stitch left. And just like we did in the beginning, it'll be a single crochet in that last stitch. So row 3, sorry, we're on row 3. Row 3 rather has the 2 single crochets in a row in the beginning and the end of the row. So that's the main difference, and that just helps you to get it staggered. So we're going to repeat rows 2 and 3. So you chain 1 and turn, and we're going to repeat rows 2 and 3. So in the first stitch, we're going to do a single crochet, and then we'll chain 1 and skip that single crochet below and single crochet into the chain 1 space. And then chain 1, skip 1, and single crochet into the chain 1 space. So that's pretty much the pattern, the stitch pattern. So we'll be repeating rows 2 and 3. And all of the sizes can repeat rows 2 and 3 until row 20 is completed. If you would like it longer, you can obviously continue with the stitch pattern. But I'm going to continue until row 20 is finished, and I'll see. Okay, so this is what it looks like so far once you finish your 20 rows. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn our work. And this is the last row for the top of the band, and then we're going to go down the sides. But in this last row, all we're going to do is put 1 single crochet in every stitch across, and that is going to include the chain 1 spaces. So just make sure you don't skip any chain 1 spaces, and you should have the same amount of single crochets as you did in row 1. So go ahead and single crochet across, and I'll meet you. Okay, so once you're done with your row of regular single crochets, now we're going to turn and work along the side of the band here. So I'm going to chain 1 and kind of like just turn my work on the side here and work into the sides of these rows. And all we're doing is putting one single crochet in the side of every row. So if you follow the tutorial exactly, we have 21 rows here, so you should have 21 single crochets in this row. And if you did a different amount of rows, then you should have the same amount of single crochets on this side as the amount of rows that you had. Alright, so I did my 21 single crochets, and I'm actually going to grab a different hook and just pull this tail through, because you guys know I don't like weaving in stuff. I don't really think anybody really does. So I'm going to take another hook. I could have used the same hook, I guess, and just pull it through that before I continue. So I'm just going to tighten that up and pull this, and that way now I can, oh yeah, I do need to put a knot here so that it doesn't move. I hope that makes sense. So I'm just going to like kind of fakely fasten it off there. Okay. And that's kind of how I'm going to cheat and be able to weave over that. Okay. From here, I'm going to chain one and turn, and then I get to weave over this tail as I go. But all I'm doing now is just putting one single crochet in every stitch across. So this is the second row of single crochets. So for an extra small, you're going to make 14 rows of single crochets total. A small will do 15, a medium will do 16, a large will do 17, and a 1X will do 18 rows, and that does include the first row. This is the second row, so that's how many you need total. So just go ahead and finish repeating this row of single crochets. Okay, so once you're finished with your repeating single crochet rows, this is what it looks like. And don't worry, it does like fray out, go outwards just a little bit, just because the moss stitch is kind of like, it's not as tall as a regular single crochet. It's just a slightly shorter. But yeah, it's gonna, if it is going outward a little bit, that's super normal. And so now from here, we're going to put our little holes in the next row to for our back tie here. So what we're going to do is chain one and turn. And then we're going to put one single crochet in the very first stitch, and then chain one, skip one, and put one single crochet in the next 8 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now we should be at the middle stitch, which is the 11th stitch, and then chain one, skip that one, and put one single crochet in the next 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then you should have 2 stitches left, and then we'll chain one, skip one, and single crochet in the last stitch. So if you have a different amount of rows, just try to find a middle stitch and make sure you skip over one of your middle stitches there. It doesn't have to be super exact, but I'm doing 3 holes, or if you're longer than this, you might want to put more holes in there. From there, go ahead and chain one and turn. And then we're going to put one single crochet in every stitch across, and that does include these little chain one spaces. So make sure you get a single crochet in there. All right, one stitch left here. All right, so once you're done with that, go ahead and chain one and fasten off. And that's the end of the first side. And so what you want to do is just reattach your yarn to the other side. So we started off at the top and came down. We started off at the top and came down. So on this side, we'll want to attach to the bottom and go up. That way the sides mirror each other. So go ahead and reattach your yarn to the bottom corner of the opposite side, and then just go ahead and repeat those rows of single crochets on this side. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you finish both sides of the back of the bodice. And now we can start on the cups. So when we do the cups, we're going to start off with the tie that goes around the neck. And as you can see from the pictures, I did have a flower on mine. If you don't want the flower, then you can skip this first initial chain 4 part. So what I'm going to do is make my slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to join with a slip stitch in that very first chain to make a circle, to make a small ring. But I'm going to use this ring later to put the flower on. From there, if you're not doing the flower, then you can skip this little ring that I just made and just make a slip stitch and then start out with the chains that I'm about to tell you. So for a size extra small, you can chain out 114 chains. That's extra small and small can chain out 114. A medium and a large can chain out 124. And a 1X can chain out 134. So we're just going to chain that out. All right, so once you chain out your chain for your size, we're going to again slip stitch in the 4th chain from the hook. So count back 4 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then slip stitch in there. And this one we're going to pull it kind of tight so it's tightly closed, and then we're going to chain 1 and turn our work, and we're going to be working into this ring here. So try to find the middle as best as you can, and then we're going to put 3 single crochets in the middle of that ring. So pull up a loop and single crochet 1, 2, and 3. And I just put 3 single crochets in the middle of that loop, and then from here I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and in this next row I'm going to put 1 single crochet in the first stitch, and then chain 1, skip 1, and put 1 single crochet in the last stitch. So we're starting off on the moss stitch, kind of. Okay, so from here what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1 and turn. Then we're going to put 1 single crochet in the very first stitch. And then in this chain 1 space, we're going to be putting a single crochet plus a chain 1, and then plus 1 more single crochet in the same stitch. So we put a single crochet, chain 1, a single crochet in that middle chain 1 space, and then in the last stitch we'll put another single crochet. Okay, and you can see it's starting to increase already. So from here what we're going to do is chain 1 and turn, and in this next row we're going to put 1 single crochet in the first stitch, and then we're going to chain 1. And you're going to have to pay attention in the beginning of these because it might be hard to see sometimes. But we're going to skip that first single crochet, and then we're going to find that chain 1 space and single crochet in there. So skip that first single crochet here, and you can see the 2 little legs there. And then we're going to find that chain 1 space. If you want to, you can also do a use a, what's it called, a stitch marker if you're having trouble finding that chain 1 space. But chain 1, skip that next single crochet, and then in the chain 1 space we're going to put again a single crochet, a chain 1, and a single crochet in that middle space there. And then we're going to chain 1, skip the next single crochet, and then single crochet in the very last stitch. Like that. And then we're going to chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to single crochet in the first stitch. And now there's a chain 1 space here. We're going to single crochet in that chain 1 space there. And then we'll chain 1. Now we're coming back up on the middle. So chain 1, skip that single crochet there, and then find the middle chain 1 space. And then we're gonna, in the middle, we're always gonna put a single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet. So that's kind of like our increase there in that middle stitch. And again, if you can't see this in the beginning, especially in the beginning, you can always put a stitch marker here, and that'll help you see it a little bit better. It takes some getting used to seeing. From there, we're gonna chain 1, skip 1, and single crochet in this next chain 1 space here, and then single crochet into the last stitch. And really only the beginning of this is kind of tricky. Once it gets a little bigger, you'll be able to see it a lot better. So now we're on row 6. So now we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. And now we're going to single crochet in the first stitch, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in this next chain 1 space, chain 1, and now we're coming up on this middle chain 1 space here, and that's where we're going to put a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. And then from there, we're going to skip this next single crochet here and chain 1. So skip that next single crochet and single crochet in that chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip 1, and single crochet in the very last stitch. And that's what row 6 looks like. So now you can start to see it a little bit better. Once you get a couple rows going, you can kind of see where that is. And from here, we're going to chain 1 and turn. And then we're going to single crochet in the first stitch and single crochet in the second stitch, in that next chain 1 space, which is the next stitch. And then chain 1, skip that single crochet and single crochet in that chain 1 space, chain 1, and now we're back at the middle. And the way that I can see the middle is, again, I use the 2 legs So that's the first single crochet in the middle, and that's the second. And in this middle one, you kind of might want to make sure that you look on the back, because sometimes when I go in here, and it might just be me, but sometimes when I go in here, I'm kind of like on the back side. You see how now I have 3 legs over there and 1 right here. It's very easy in that middle stitch to go into this second single crochet from the back side, if that makes sense. So I just make sure that I do have 2 legs on each side when I come out. So I just want to make sure that I do have 2 here and 2 there before I proceed to do my single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. I just want to make sure because that keeps the pattern nice and neat. So once you do your middle one, you're going to chain 1, skip that next single crochet, and single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, skip that single crochet in the next chain 1 space, and then single crochet into the last stitch. So it's kind of like the same moss stitch, we're just increasing in the middle. So either row, one row is going to have 2 single crochets in a row, and the next row is just going to have 1 and skip 1. Okay, so that was row 7. Now row 8, we're going to chain 1 and turn. And I'm just going to do a couple more rows here with you just to make sure that we got it down. But chain 1 and turn, and then in this very first stitch we're going to put a single crochet, and then chain 1, skip 1, skip that single crochet, and single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in that next space. And then every time you get to the middle, which has the single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, every single time you get to the middle, you're gonna do that same pattern. So you're gonna single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet. And let me just make sure I did my thing right. I did. Yes. And then from there, chain 1, skip 1, and single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the chain 1 space, chain 1, skip 1, and single crochet in the last stitch. And then next we're going to chain 1 and turn, and this is row 9. So here we're going to single crochet in the first stitch and single crochet in the next stitch, which is a chain 1 space, and then chain 1, skip 1, oops, and single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, skip 1, and now we're at the middle. And we're going to do our little single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in that middle stitch, and then chain 1, skip 1, which I am not seeing it that good. Oh, I think I went into, oh no, it's right there. See, it's even hard for me to see sometimes. Okay, so, okay, and then chain 1, skip that next one, and single crochet in that next chain 1 space, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, and single crochet, and then always single crochet in the last stitch. So that was row 9, and you can kind of see that it's starting to build out. This might be hard to see. You might have to take your time, especially in the beginning. It does help to use a stitch marker here, but essentially it's the same moss stitch. We're just increasing from the middle, so it just makes it a little bit more weird or harder to see, but it's exactly the same thing as the moss stitch that we did on the band. So, you know, with a little practice you can get it. And that was row 9 there. So we're gonna continue this pattern. It's really just a 2-row repeat like we've been doing. We're gonna continue this pattern. So for an A cup, you're gonna continue this pattern until you have 16 rows total of this. And we're on row 9 now. For a B cup, you're going to go until you have 18 rows. A C cup will go until you have 20 rows. A D cup will go until you finish 22 rows. And a double D will go until you finish 24 rows. So go ahead and finish that, and I'll meet you there. Okay, so I'm making a B cup, and I did 18 rows. So this is what your cup should look like so far. So A is on, just finished row 16, B finished row 18, C finished row 20, D finished row 22, and double D finished row 24. Okay, so you're gonna have to keep track of your rows with this project, and if you can't count them, then just make sure that you're keeping a good track of it, because this is a very precise, the bra cup is very precise, and if you're off, then it might not fit as well. So it is a more challenging cup to make if you're not used to using single crochets and seeing it that small. It is hard to see sometimes. So from here, what you want to do is, now we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to stop increasing, and we're just doing the moss stitch straight across now. What you want to do is chain 1 and turn, and then you're going to single crochet in the first stitch, and then single crochet in the second stitch, and then chain 1 and continue with the moss stitch. So chain 1, skip the next single crochet, and single crochet in the chain 1 space. And we're just going to do that all the way across. So chain 1, skip the single crochet, and single crochet in the chain 1 spaces. So that's all we're doing straight across, and I'm going to do this first row with you all the way through, because when we get to the middle, it's going to be the same thing. So chain 1, skip 1, and now I'm at the middle, so I'm just going to chain 1, skip that first single crochet, and then single crochet in the middle, but I'm only going to put 1 in the middle now. I'm not increasing anymore. So chain 1, skip 1, and finish out the row. And then this row gets a single crochet. So this is the row that gets the 2 single crochets in the row at the end. And then the next row, we're going to chain 1, turn, and we're going to continue with the moss stitch. So we're going to single crochet in the first stitch, but the next stitch is a single crochet, so we're going to chain 1 and skip that one. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet. And we're going to go all the way across again. So chain 1, skip 1, single crochet. And in the middle, we're just going to put, well, there is no more middle anymore. We're just going to follow the pattern, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the chain 1 space below. And this is our new 2-row repeat now. So we're just back on the regular moss stitch. And we're going to continue repeating this pattern. So I'll put up on the screen here what row you're on. This is row 18 for an A cup, row 20 for a B cup, row 22 for a C cup, row 24 for a D cup, and row 26 for a double D. That's what row this was that we just completed. So you're going to repeat those 2 rows, the new repeat pattern with no increase. Just go straight across. We're going to repeat those rows until, for A cup, you're going to go until you complete row 32. A B cup is going to go until you complete row 35. A C cup is going to go until row 40 is finished. A D cup will finish row 46. And a double D will finish row 50. So go ahead and finish your cup. Okay, so this is what your cup should look like once you are finished. So you'll see where we increased in the beginning, and then we stopped that increase and just went straight down. And it is reversible. Yeah, so that's what it looks like. And if this is your first cup, you're gonna go ahead and chain 1 and fasten off. If it's your second cup, we're not gonna fasten off. We're gonna use the working yarn to attach it to the band. Okay, so once you have your 2 cups completed, we're going to find the center stitch of your bodice band and mark that off, and then you can count how many stitches you have under each cup and count that out and mark those off. And I'll put on the screen what each cup size should have, but just make sure that each cup has the same amount of stitches in it, including the chain 1 spaces. So now we're going to either sew, single crochet, or slip stitch your cups to the band. So I'm going to start off with the cup that is not fastened off and start with that working yarn. So I'm going to put that on my hook. And then I'm going to see which side I want to be the front. So I want this to be the inside. So I'm just going to match those along. And I'm actually using the bottom, the foundation chain, because I did the bottom bumps. So they're a little bit tighter than using the top, but I like to use the bottom bumps sometimes, or the foundation chain. So yeah, so now once you have everything aligned, you're going to either single crochet or slip stitch these together. It's a lot easier to single crochet, but I'm actually going to slip stitch these to every stitch. So you're just basically matching up 1 and 1, and you can either slip stitch these, or you can single crochet or sew them together. I'm not going to show this part because these are pretty tight stitches because I'm going along the foundation chain. So I'm not going to show this whole part, but it should be pretty self-explanatory. So go ahead and sew or seam these together, and I'll meet you there. Alright, so I'm just about done with my first cup. So I got 1 stitch left, and this stitch is my middle stitch. So you could have done either putting both cups in the middle stitch or leaving the middle stitch blank. That was up to you, but I'm using the middle stitch on both cups. I had to get my e-hook because this foundation chain was that tight I couldn't even do it. So if you use the middle hook, just make sure you, or the middle stitch on the first cup, make sure you use it for your second one. So I'm going to go grab my second one and make sure that I weave over this tail as I go. So I'm going to have that on this side, and this is reversible, so it doesn't matter. So I'm going to have this in the center so I can weave that in as I go. So I need to go back into my middle stitch once more. And slip stitch. So I'm gonna put my tail in between my slip stitches, keep weaving them back and forth, and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm gonna pull it up this way in between my hook and the rest of the next stitches that I'm going through. And it's still tight even for this e-hook. And slip stitch. So once I pulled it up, I'm gonna push it back down, and that's how I'm kind of weaving this in as I go. So I'm gonna hit the next stitch on both pieces. And then on the next one, I'm gonna pull it back towards me and just keep weaving that in back and forth. That's if you're slip stitching. If you're single crocheting, it's easy, but you get the idea. So go ahead and finish seaming these together. All right, so now I'm on my last stitch. And then I will fasten off. And now I'm just going to take a moment to weave in all of my tails. Okay, so one of the last things we have to do is make our back tie for those little chain one spaces that we made. And if you are not putting the flower on here, then you can just go straight into the chains. But before I make my chain, I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then slip stitch to make a small ring for my flower. And then I'm going to start making my chain. So for a size extra small and small, you're going to chain out here 244 chains. A size medium will do 254 chains. A large will do 264 chains. And a 1X will do 274 chains. All right, so once you chain out your chain, we're going to put another ring at the other side of this chain. So I'm going to count 4 stitches back, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then slip stitch in that 4th chain from my hook. And then from there, I'm going to fasten off. So chain 1 and fasten off. All right, so now we're going to weave in our string before we add the flower, because then it'll be too big to get into these small holes. So what we're going to do is find those little chain 1 spaces and start weaving in our tail, our So now we're going to put on the flowers into those little loops. So my first flower I did in the same yarn, but I just used their color red. And for my next flower, I'm going to use the color, what color is this? Hot pink. Okay, so in order to make the flower, we're going to go to this little ring that we made and find the middle of that ring and put that on our hook. Pop that on our hook like that. And then I'm going to make a slip knot to attach. And I'm going to pull up a loop like kind of on the right of this knot, or you would do it on the left if you're left-handed. But I'm just going to pull up a loop, and from there I'm just going to place and chain one, and then I'm going to place 8 single crochets into the middle of the circle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm weaving over these tails as I go. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So those tails are weaved in, and I can just cut those when I'm done with my flower. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to slip stitch into that very first single crochet of this row, and then from there I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that counts as a double treble crochet. And then I'm going to double treble crochet 2 together. So I'm going to yarn over twice, insert my hook into that same stitch that we slip stitched in, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then I don't finish, and I'll do one more, yarn over twice, insert into the same stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and now you should have 3 loops on your hook, and yarn over and pull through all 3. And then now we're going to do a chain 3 picot. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then picot into that first chain that we did. And I try to pick up 2 loops when I do my picots. So pull up a loop and then slip stitch like that, and that's your picot. And now we're going to double treble crochet 2 together in that same stitch once more. So yarn over twice and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then we'll do that again. And then we'll yarn over and pull through all 3. And then from here we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then slip stitch into that same stitch that we've been working in. And then we're going to repeat that 8 times. So first we're going to slip stitch over, or repeat it 7 times, sorry. We're going to slip stitch over to this next single crochet, slip stitch, and then chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll double treble crochet 2 together, chain 3 picot, 1, 2, 3, and then slip stitch in that first chain space like that. And then we're going to double treble crochet 2 together in that same stitch. We're still working in that same stitch. And then chain 4 and slip stitch into the same stitch there. And then we'll slip stitch to the next single crochet and continue that pattern. So we have 2 petals left. We have 6 more to go. All right, so I made it all the way around. I'm on my last chain 4, and I'm gonna slip stitch into the same stitch as that I was working in for my last one. And then I'm going to slip stitch into that next spot. And then I'm going to chain 1 and fasten off. And you'll just have to weave in that last string there. But that's what your flower looks like, and we're just going to repeat that. You can kind of close it a little bit by tugging on those other 2 strings. But yeah, so that's what our flower looks like. It does peekaboo a little bit, that second color, but oh well. But yeah, that's what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat the flowers for the rest of my tie. And once you finish all 4 of your flowers, all we have to do then is clip those tails that we crocheted over, and then weave in the rest of your tails, and you are finished. So thank you all once again so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and please don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave me a comment if you like this video, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.